Hello and welcome to the West Coast NeoThink virtual clubhouse call for February 27th, 2021. I'm Evan Holst from Seattle. I'm with Julie Wallace from Salem and Sue Silva from Auburn. We do record these meetings for those who want to watch the replays. So if you join the meeting, your video and audio will be recorded. We are a virtual clubhouse and we encourage participation before and after our presentations, sometimes during. We ask that you please mute during the presentations. Sue, what would you like to share with us this week?
I'm going to be continuing in the get that order wrong, Neo-Cheating, Neotech, Neothink book. And the page number, it's in the middle. There's a lot of different sections in here, so there's different page numbers. There's a lot of different pages without the same, but it's towards the end, and it's in the happiness section. I'm going to be going from the bottom of 169 to the end of chapter 6. I'm going to be finishing chapter 6 today. And then I got a couple of things I want to bring towards the end of the call to tie in. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see, where is it at? I'm not finding it right now. There we go. Okay, technical difficulties. All right, let me try this again. Sorry, guys. I had it all set up and it's not working. All right. Something on. If I can't share my screen, let me try this again. There it is. Okay, can everyone see that? All right. Yes. So the Neotech man by nature drives forward his value creation dynamics. The Neotech woman by nature works hard with him, tangibly and emotionally. They experience something spectacular called Neotech love. If she loses a bigger picture, then she becomes generally happy with someone else, someone for a lifestyle. For the Neotech man will not leave his essence until he benefits. Thus, she must leave him so romantic love emotions can receive more attention. The opportunity lost is tragic. By losing the bigger picture, she loses a lifetime of Neotech love. She loses the opportunity to elevate her source flow of happiness to ever-growing realms. For a Neotech man integrates his existence with his value creation. He always builds value. Thus, he always builds happiness, love, and always looks forward to the exciting celebrations with his woman. And the woman who understands the cause and effect dynamics between value creation, which is business, and value reflection, love, can become part of his always growing, exciting, and romantic world. She can share in building those ever-growing values, the cause. She can share in experiencing the riches of everlasting happiness, the effect. Indeed, Neotech love, such never-ending value creation, converts to indescribable emotions of happiness and romantic love. But only by having the bigger picture can this elusive dimension of life, Neotech love and its lifelong celebration, ever be captured. By not become a rebel against establishment, ideas, and Plato world norms, the bigger picture is lost. For once in a lifetime opportunity and abiding super happiness, it gets lost to a life based on sharing lifestyle instead. For the Neotech love fades away, as the Neotech man never leaves his desk. At this sad point, she becomes genuinely happier with someone else, instead to share lifestyle together. Neotech love versus lifestyle. A little bit about lifestyle. What does he mean by lifestyle? I was asking myself today. I guess to me, it's like keeping up the Joneses. It's wanting to, lifestyle is outside of you, everything out there. It's, doing, I think, and, you can still watch a movie together and do things together, or go out and, go to dinner or something like that and Neothink, but it's a different thing than it being a lifestyle. So it was I was kind of trying to figure out what he exactly meant by lifestyle, but I was trying to put it into, I remember, well, I'll tell you in a minute about when we get to celebration. So neotech love versus lifestyle. In neotech love, time is spent together. The neotech couple fuel each other with value, reflection, and wonderful feelings. Love pulls the neotech man and woman together for powerful emotional experiences. Lifestyle pulls the average man and woman together for weak emotional experiences. Time spent together by a neotech couple becomes a lasting value. That time does not slip away with lost memories. It snaps into happiness matrix and forever stays with them. For instance, they can vividly see, feel, and experiences they shared years ago. Indeed, those experiences happened years ago, but the couple can still see everything. They can still feel those experiences as if the couple were experiencing them today. So I wanted to say a little bit about that because I remember one particular time, my husband and I, about 7 years ago, there's many experiences, but we got away for a weekend and went to Idaho. My cousin was in a bodybuilding competition at 43 and she did amazing. We drove to Boise to go see her, but we had time to for the two of us to be at the hotel. We rented a hotel room. I remember going to Boise and I remember telling him a story that when I was in school, I felt cheated because the fourth graders got to go to the Capitol building in Boise, but the year I got in, all 3 years when I was up to fourth grade, I was so excited to go on this field trip. They canceled it for the fourth graders when it came to my year. So I was so disappointed. And so my husband took me to the Capitol building that day. So we got to go see the Capitol building, and I mean, we just had the most magical, amazing time because it was just the two of us and we got to have this celebration. And that's one of those memories that I have that we have that we'll never lose. So this is kind of what I see when I read this. It's what brought, I hadn't thought about that in years and it brought it back. So I wanted to share it with you guys. The average couple orients their time together around recreational experiences, not around each other. Their recreational experiences over time just drift away with unimportant memories. The neotech couple spends recreational time together too, but to be with each other and to experience each other through romantic affection. Their times together are celebrations of powerful love, not lifestyle. Their lifetime together never drifts away with unimportant memories. Their lifetime together builds an unbreakable matrix of happiness, broken only by death. A love that never fails. Most people, at one time in their lives, fall in love. Falling in love feels so wonderful, the greatest feeling they have ever known, but the warmth gradually begins to leave them. They become empty. They eventually feel abandoned by love. Perhaps feeling that love is a hoax. Nearly everyone spends the majority of their lives without romantic neotech love. Never fades and never fails. Tender, happy affection that rises from the depths of innocent souls radiates between a neotech couple. The affection or adoration for each other grows with time. Affection towards innocence can only grow. For example, a cat or dog are not capable of self-dishonesty and are totally innocent creatures. Therefore, one's affection for his pet grows over the years. Similarly, babies and young children are not ridden with self-dishonesty and are innocent beings. Therefore, one's affection for babies and young children never fails. A neotech man and neotech woman are basically free of destructive dishonesties and are as innocent as children. Therefore, a neotech person's sweet and tender affection for his spouse grows over the years. The preciousness. A self-honest man and woman know a preciousness that most people never know exists. They feel a preciousness for each other that nothing can threaten. They shower each other with sweetness and tenderness. They could not bear to see the other unhappy or hurting. The happiness of their spouse means everything. They are inseparable. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I was perusing through, I think I'm almost done. I was going to let you guys know something. It's kind of interesting. Some of you might have heard this because I don't know if anybody has, but it was about 13 years ago, or not 13 years ago, it was about 9 years ago, about 2013. I was perusing through looking for some papers and I found a tab in my thing and it said poetry. And I found some of my old poetry that I'd written when I was when I was first getting into, well, I've been in Neil Think about 3 or 4 years when this happened. So about 4 years. So we were on these calls and we're doing all this stuff. So I'm going to read one of them to you because I think it's pretty good. And I was like, wow, I forgot that I wrote those. So My child of the past is reached to soar. Oh yes, I have opened the door to the person I was meant to be, an enchanted future I could see. I rely on my own mind as a guide. This is turning out to be a fantastic ride. I live each day with exhilaration and love. The new life I create, it fits like a glove. As consciousness shifts and others move in, a beautiful new world shall begin. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. And I'm thinking, I just talked to my son and I'm gonna be writing a poetry book. More stuff's coming to me, so I wanted to leave you guys with that. Thank you guys very much. Let me stop sharing my screen. I was like, why can't I get the thing to come back up? Now if I can get technology down, then we're good. Thank you, everyone.
That was beautiful.
Thank you. I have a couple more, but I'm going to be writing some more. I appreciate that.
Well, I, for one, would greatly appreciate it if you'd share them on every call.
Okay.
Whenever you feel.
I will do that.
But, you know.
Thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I remember when I wrote these and I was like, wow, those are pretty good. But I enjoyed writing them, and I'm going to be writing more. I've got a lot of stuff about self-love that's coming, that's downloading for me and stuff too. So thank you guys. Anybody have any questions or comments about this part, about the preciousness, about any experiences you've had that you remember with your spouses that, you know, comes up, that where you just had that celebration and everything was just beautiful? You'd like to share?
I just wanted to comment on your poem there. That was really nice, and I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Dennis says you have your hand up, but you're on mute. You have to unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, I know about those buttons. I just wanted to wait my turn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
And I see your
okay.
hand up.
We're doing the raise hand thing out of the other calls, so.
Well, I like it because it allows everyone to say what they're going to say.
Yeah.
And then nobody jumps in, you know, because it allows each one of us to say what we're going to say. And then if someone else wants to comment, they can take their turn. That's just my view on it. I just think it works better that way. Now I'm going to take my hand down and finish what I was going to say.
I'm going to interrupt you to remind you there's people on the phone that can't see that. So
Okay.
that's why I'm not
that's
trying to
just-
be rude to you. I just mention it. That
Yeah, there's a lot to learn on all of this, and
Yeah.
some don't have computers, and I'm being forced to go back to my phone, and I don't like it because the computer's easier for me,
Mhm.
but things have caused me to have to go back to it. So anyways, no, I wanted to just make a comment back on page 171, the Neotech Love versus Lifestyle. I was recalling during the years that I was married, my wife was always wanting lifestyle. And I was killing myself working 2 jobs and trying to run a shop just to keep her in this lifestyle thing she wanted. And so many times I was scratching my head, there's something wrong with this picture. It's not working for me because I never had time to really be home. I was busy working. And, you know, I think that that's a lot of the problem in relationships and marriages is it gets so centered on lifestyle, and that's a false illusion. For me anyways, I just found that, you know, I had the nice house up on the hill and all the cars and all the stuff. And I walked out one day, it was about 5 years after we got that house. And I just said, screw this. I'm done. Got rid of the house, sold the cars, and moved to a small little house downtown. And the deal I made with the wife is that I would buy her a Cadillac Seville if she would just accept what I wanted to do, you know, and she went for that. And then she began to see what I was talking about, and things changed between us. This was before I was in NeoThink. I got tired of trying to keep up with the neighbors and all this stuff because it was so false to me. Not to mention the fact that it was just wearing me down. I couldn't keep up. So and then I come into Neil, think she's been gone about 21 years now, and I'm thinking, you know, if I had this, it could have been so much easier to explain, you know, because I would have had a different understanding of it. But I think that, you know, in looking at some of my friends that are married, I see that problem in their lives. And there's a lot of unhappiness going on there because they don't understand the romance part. And for me, I really understand it. I mean, I'm spending time romancing Dennis, if that makes sense to anybody. On Valentine's Day, I didn't have an intimate woman to buy roses for. I went and bought them for myself. Lady at the cashier said, "Oh, that's nice. You're buying your significant other flowers." And I said, "Nope, I'm buying them for Dennis." And I tried to explain this to a couple I know really well. I said, you know, if you romance yourselves, you can romance each other. Think about that. What are you talking about? I said, just think about it and we'll get back together someday and talk about it, you know. I gave this book to my grandson. He's he's about 2 years into his relationship and he's got a kid coming. And I said, just sit down and read through this book with your wife and think about what it's telling you. Because I'm hoping that he can avoid all the pitfalls that I went through. He's 23 now, and so I'm thinking that's a good time to have it, you know, and learn it. Because he's getting caught up in that. His woman wants the house and the car, and I keep telling him, I says, you're going into debt and you're going to be forever unhappy about it. And they just started listening to me. This is 3 years later now. They're just starting to listen. And I'm just speaking from experience. Lifestyle just doesn't cut it. I mean, we all want to live nice. I mean, I'm not arguing that point. But when it becomes the focus, you lose the value of your life, you know? And I really like the time spent together by a neo-think couple becomes the lasting value. Because I do remember those times I spent with the wife. You know, when we took a vacation, I bought a full dress bike and I said, come on, she'd never done it. I had. We packed up the bike and we went across the United States and down south to Texas and Louisiana. And she met other couples doing the same thing. And it dawned on her that, yeah, this is what it's about, you know. And I still have those memories. I get to carry those and keep those in my heart. And it was special, you know. And now that I'm reading this, I'm seeing that I had kind of a basic concept of that, just not a full understanding of it. I had the percepts right, but I hadn't fully grasped the concept, if that makes sense to anybody.
Yes.
So I like it that Sue's going through this because it's given me a chance to reflect back and look forward to what can be at a future time. And I'll stop there because if you get me going, I'll ramble on. So thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Oh, I'm so glad that you shared that because it helps explain some things to me, Dennis, because I was going grocery shopping just before Valentine's Day and there was this beautiful bouquet that caught my eye. I'm going to give you a little bit of my background. Like you, I quit the corporate world. We were doing well, great financially, but it was killing me. And I bought a florist shop. So I really love flowers and bouquets. I was grocery shopping and there was a deep purple and red bouquet that caught my eye and it was not expensive at all. And I bought it and I didn't pay for it with my makeup and mad money. I bought it with the grocery money. And my husband and I sat down and played games at the table and I thanked him for the bouquet. And I said, and the house paid for it. I said, I didn't buy it this time. And he said, well, I'm glad you did. He says, I like flowers too. So it was like I bought him flowers, but I bought flowers and it ended up celebrating our relationship. It was like I bought him for him to give to me and I gave them to him too. It was, we both, it just brought us joy. That is exactly what you were talking about. So sorry to go on. Somebody had their hand raised. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I don't remember who it was.
That was you, Julie.
No, somebody else had it after me.
Oh, okay.
Funny. That was you, Julie.
I
I'm like my sibling.
don't see
I
anybody.
didn't see the other one, sorry.
I don't see the other one. All right, if there's no more raised hands or no one else wants to say anything, I guess we're moving on to Julie's presentation.
Hi, everybody. First, I have to apologize. I'm sitting next to a shiny window, and so I closed the drapes, and my kitty cat keeps playing in them. So if you see light flashing on my face, that's not my fault. Well, it is because I've got a cat. So I am going to share my screen now because I am presenting from the NeoThink 2-key book. Oops, excuse me, technical difficulty, Inner Circle Secrets. I'm in part 3, which is the 3 insights, our evolution to God-man. I'm on the first, volume 1, the 3 insights, the first insight. I'm on page 634. I want to say a couple of things. This underlining is not in the manual. That's for my emphasis. And if it bothers anybody, let me know and I won't do that in the future. Also in this section, it makes reference to Anu, capital A-N-U, which is supposedly the supreme God or the supreme source of all authority. And it makes another reference, and I didn't know these words, so I looked them up. Please forgive me, I don't mean to talk down to you, but I wasn't familiar with these words, and for your benefit, I'm just going to remind you that sortilege is it's a method of divinity by casting lots. So just so you know, when we get to that point, please let me know if you're having trouble reading this or can't see it. And I'm going to try to go through this pretty fast because we got some things to talk about. Okay, the problem of switching over to godlike power. At first, the effort will seem difficult. In time, that feeling of being difficult will shift to feelings of exhilaration as you discover value creation and experience the life you were meant to live. As the ordinary person discovers something new and wide open called integrated thinking. In contrast to today's predominant specialized thinking that pigeonholed people in lifetime routine ruts. He or she experiences a mind that can break beyond its stagnant boundaries and integrate or snap together more and more ideas to build, piece by piece, growing success puzzles. Integrated thinking is a tool for building NeoThink breakthroughs. He discovers that integrated thinking is extremely profitable in business. NeoThink is an entirely new mentality that we will switch over to sometime in the 21st century. People who switch over to the new mentality will appear to the mysticism-plagued person to have risen to a higher consciousness, just as the people who switched over to consciousness 3,000 years ago appeared to the bicameral person to be gods. The approaching NeoThink mentality takes a man to a whole new level where he will eventually acquire literally godlike power as God-man, the third insight. Now, going beyond nature's system, the problem of switching over to God-man reduces to just how deeply embedded the program of mysticism is in our minds. Going back to our ancestors, the bicameral man's survival mechanism of hallucinating voices of the gods was a neurological process. As an analogy, if a cat faced a hostile situation, whether it fought or fled, came from a neurological process, a neurological instruction or command. As James demonstrates, if a bicameral man faced a hostile situation like a cat, Whether he fought or fled came from a neurological process, a neurological instruction or command. But because God had developed a sophisticated language, the neurological process or neurological instruction or command came in the sophisticated form of a powerful voice and was the consummate guiding mechanism evolved by nature. No greater authority exists than the spoken voice, particularly when that voice comes from within one's own brain, as in bicameral man. As James identifies, using descriptive analogies to schizophrenics today, the voice in his own head was all enveloping, from which there was no retreat. He could not hold his ears to muffle before voice or draw back to run away to weaken the voice. There was no escape. Wherever he might flee, the voice would not weaken. The voice consumed every part of his body, as if his fingers and toes all had ears. The authority was unquestioned, complete, and clear. In fact, that neurological process or neurological instruction or command was what much more effective through the commanding authority of the voices than any other process in nature's evolution. So much more effective than, say, the cat's guidance system. Bicameral man and the authority of sound was the ultimate evolution through nature's system. The fact that our brains today are physically identical to those of our bicameral ancestors, which means we have the same exact neurological circuitry that once heard and obeyed the voices, makes the bicameral mentality very hard to deprogram. Today, we almost instinctively react to the strong voices of our leaders. Even today, the authority of sound, as in a powerful political campaign or campaign speech, can overwhelm an individual and move a nation. Now let's talk about fully evolving into man's system. Conscious man marks the break from nature's system to man's system when man took over. Neothink man or God man is the ultimate evolution into man's system. Now, conscious man must evolve psychologically from the mysticism-plagued consciousness into mysticism-free or neothink consciousness. Two possible mentalities exist in conscious man. One, there's the flawed mysticism-plagued consciousness that accepts, even seeks external authorities, instructing people how to live. The proof of that flawed mentality is the existence of a ruling class. Or two, the non-flawed, mysticism-free consciousness or neothink mentality accepts full responsibility on how to live. The pure state of consciousness is in which man's mind is his own authority. The proof that flawless conscious mentality is the super society and its gifts in everyone's life, the gifts of wealth, health, and safety that were revealed in the 12 visions. For 3,000 years, people have searched for a higher consciousness, a mystical higher consciousness. The neothink mentality or God man ends that search and brings us what appears to be that higher consciousness, but a non-mystical higher consciousness, more accurately articulated as the pure state of consciousness. Now here's the problem and the promise. 3,000 years ago, when the bicameral man broke down and the voices of the gods fell silent, man went through enormous efforts to still communicate and receive answers and authorization from their silent gods who had left the earth and now lived in the sky. During this period, prayer was invented to ask for guidance. Angels were invented as the winged messengers of the gods who now lived with Anu, the greatest god in the sky. And heaven was invented as the place in the sky where gods now lived. Today, people still pray for guidance from God, believe in messages from angels, and look towards the sky as heaven where God lives. The bicameral mentality is still very much in us. James demonstrates we are still in the breakdown process of the bicameral mind. Of course, this presents an enormous problem. How do we possibly make the switch into neothink, still so steeped in the bicameral mentality? I believe we are close to overcoming the problem and close to making the switch into the neothink mentality. I base this belief on observing today the mirror image of what immediately preceded bicameral's man switched into consciousness, which indicates to me that we are leaving today's mysticism-plagued consciousness mentality for a new mentality. During the breakdown of the bicameral mind, man went through incremental stages approaching subjective thought and consciousness. Those stages particularly involved divination, which were attempts to divine the speech of the now silent gods and discover the will of the silent gods, man's urgent quest for authorization. Even today, people in deep decision making often plead, God, give me a sign. Examples of those past divinations were omens, sortilege, augury, and spontaneous divination, described in Janes's book. Janes demonstrates how these four main types of divination brought man closer and closer to the subjective structure of consciousness. They brought man to the edge of consciousness. Today, for the first time in history, I see the reverse image of the quest for authorization. That reversed image today is the growing damnation of politicians in particular. To damn the politician is a direct conscious attack on authorization, a sign of a breaking from our bicameral past. Of course, for centuries, people have rebelled against rulers and governments, but always against a particular party or system, looking for another party or system to come in and provide better external authorities and guidance. For the first time, people today are turning against the idea of a politician, period. For the first time, large percentages of people are not just grumbling their dissatisfaction at their existing external guidance, seeking what they perceive as an improved external guidance to take over authorization. Instead, for the first time, people are turning against authority, against the fundamental concept of government ruling over their lives. That damnation of dishonest, unearned authority at its core is a hallmark of mysticism-free consciousness, and I believe puts us on the edge of neothink. Our leap into God-man will follow. No, Mark's going to talk, Mr. Hamilton is going to talk about his actual insight. Now that I've taken you through some of my 17-year development of the God-man hypotheses, which made it possible to have this insight, now let us turn to the actual first insight that showed me exactly what the God-man would be like. I feel very fortunate to have had this insight, for making the difficult switch into the new mentality and its new world would be greatly aided if we could see ahead to what this, which would be like specifically, and what things would change and how. If we could have some idea of what to expect and how to change, to somehow see the changes and how they would affect us, then we would have some sort of orientation and expectation to get our bearings and secure our footing in order to advance confidently with a clear plan. The first insight gave me that orientation with a look into the fascinating new mentality and its new world. This insight showed me a civilization in my mind's eye that is actively neothink. In a sense, the first insight provided me with an analog model, saying a map of the new civilization needed to visualize the new world and then switch over to the new mentality. Within that demonstration of the 12 Visions world, I witnessed some exciting gifts we can look forward to when we evolve into God-man. The first insight showed me the God-man, and the insight was beautiful. Here's what I saw during the actual first insight of my 12 visions. my encounter with God, man, gods of life, live forever, outperformance, becoming billionaires, becoming geniuses, becoming omnipotent, attracting friends and lovers, becoming the perfect physical specimen, discover in fearlessness. And we will get into those more in depth next week, and then we'll summarize the first insight. But the excitement, I can feel the excitement growing. Um, and I'm so excited when we had all this fallout recently in our political presidential situation. I was getting so excited because I could see this happening. It was happening right before my eyes in the 21st century. And everybody thought I was nuts because I was excited about all this controversy because people are becoming aware. So that was my presentation. I could just go on and on and on. Obviously, you can feel my excitement growing, but I would just love to hear some of your insight. I'll give you, anybody have any? Well, first, I want to say one more thing. I noticed when I was going over this, he talked about these gifts, the wealth, the health, the gifts, and the word gifts is always capitalized. That's not grammatically correct, or when you're publicizing that would have been edited out. So there's a purpose that those gifts are with a capital G every time he says gifts. So I want to hear your thoughts, questions, inputs. If my underline was too distracting, anything, interact. Tell me to not present anymore or whatever you're feeling, thinking, please.
Jerry has a virtual hand up.
Okay, Jerry, you go first. Bless your heart.
Just a quick thought that came to me while you were talking about the God-man and the perspective and how it's different than the bicameral man. And one of the things that happened to me recently is a friend from high school died. And I was online and reading some of the things that everybody else was saying, and it was all about God and you know, God be with you, and he's in a better place. And, you know, I couldn't think of what to say that was real from a perspective that didn't have that slant to it. I don't know what else to say, but it was perplexing to me. And if anybody has some ideas as to how you handle something when a lot of people are in a different perspective, they are in a perspective where it's a divine happening instead of a life situation. I guess I'm hoping that someone can help me understand what fits when other people are talking about may God be with you, or, you know, the standard phrases that people use.
For me, Jerry, I don't with I struggle with that too, in like death and stuff like that, because you know I'll say a lot of times I'll still say my condolences or something like that for death. But if someone's ill and someone's sick and someone's not doing well, or their health is poor, I will say things like sending you healing, sending you healing energy. I'll say something like sending you healing energy or sending you positive energy. I'm you know, I'll say something to that effect. So I'm not saying I'm praying for you, but I'm saying the same thing, because all a prayer is a positive affirmation into the universe. If you're praying for someone, it's just, but the word prayer to us doesn't sound like, there's nothing we want to talk about, because we don't think of prayer. We think of prayer as God help me, please. Real prayer is a visualization and a manifestation. Greg Braden told an amazing story about prayer and about rain. You heard it, Dennis, about prayer and about rain when they in Arizona or somewhere. I'm not doing it justice. I only heard the story a couple times, but there was a drought going on in this village or something, and he knew a chief, and the chief said, "Let's go pray." and they went to a mountain and they prayed, but what they did is they visualized their feet, and they visualized the water coming down, and it was a whole visualization process of the rain, and they just saw it in their mind, and they saw the whole entire rain happening and coming down. New Mexico, thank you. thanks Dennis. And all of a sudden after this happened, I don't know how long it was, a couple of days, but it just started raining exactly the way they envisioned it, and rain didn't stop. But it was, so prayer is not meant to be asking for something. It's meant to be putting out the intention and seeing it as if it's happening. So if maybe that helps you, Jerry, we can look at it like sending you energy. I'm sending you positive energy. I'm sending you healing. And that's
That does help. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dennis?
Yeah, I'm still getting used to these buttons. I've
Now,
run
wait a
into
minute.
that.
You're the one that told me you know how to do all this stuff.
Yeah, but I'm still slow. You know, I've run into that problem a lot. You know, the older I get, the more friends that pass away and stuff. And when I get around a lot of them, you know, they have that religious concept that Jerry was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And they think I'm a real strange cookie. And just to kind of give you an example, this is kind of off of what they were doing, but when my favorite dog passed away, and everybody was trying to comfort me and giving me all this religious jargon, and I didn't want to offend them, but I didn't have the concept that they have. I've learned a lot of things over the years, and been involved in stuff that is a little beyond their thinking right now. They're slowly getting there, you know. When you understand, oh gosh, I don't know if I don't want to go into this too much, but death is an illusion. Always has been, always will be. What does that mean? Well, your soul's eternal. The only thing that dies is your material body. So you're still around. You're just not in your vessel, your body on this planet. And that's just kind of a simple thing that I had in my mind. And I tried to explain it to some of them, and it goes over their head. I have found that, you know, like Sue was saying, I can just tell them, you know, that I'm sorry for your loss, and I know that you won't have your special one present in the physical form, and I'm going to send you healing energy because I think you're the one that's suffering. And you know, but they, you know, when they start talking to me about, they want me to convert to their religious concept, and I won't do it. I can't. It just doesn't fit. It doesn't make sense. There's no reality to it. And but at the same time, they have the right to feel sad because the physical presence is no longer there. And I get that. So, you know, it's trying to understand where the realm that they're stuck in and bring yours over. You're going to have to wait until they're seeking new concepts, because as long as they're stuck in the old concepts, nothing you say is going to change a thing until something happens to them where there's an opening. And when that happens, you'll see it. The only thing you can do is give them a hug and tell them you love them and send them energy, you know, and that's the best way to do it, and leave it alone, because if you try to get into it, you're going to end up in arguments, you know, and that I'll leave it at that.
That's very helpful. Thank you. I found myself not knowing what to do or what to say because I didn't agree with what they were the perspective they were coming from, but I couldn't turn that into, just giving positive energy or just,
Right.
saying that the body is not there, but the essence is, I appreciate everybody helping me understand better what to say, and that's helpful.
I have one more thing to add, if I can, about this topic. Is that if it's someone real close to me, I will tell them my heart goes out to you, and it really does. The other thing I say, we talked a little bit, both Sue and Dennis, he just wraps it up so concise and clearly, because our prayers aren't exactly the same as I'm saying my prayer, because I have a religious God the Father and the Holy Son background coming into Neothink, which I have evolved. And so my prayers are different now. Yes. I use the same thing. I send positive energy for your healing when somebody's sick. But when it's obviously, and I come from some very spiritual family, believe me, or, I don't even, somebody was against their brother getting married because the woman was divorced. And so if he married her, that would be adultery. So that's how strict religion that particular sect of my family is. But for them, I will say, just to respect because it's so important to them, I will say my thoughts and prayers are with you.
Mm-hmm.
They can interpret the word prayer to bring them comfort. Mm-hmm. And I know my prayer is to send them love and energy for healing and compassion and energy. So I will say my thoughts and prayers are with you, because they are.
Yep. And I've done that. Yeah,
I guess,
go ahead.
To
Jerry.
me, the word prayer just didn't seem to fit in with my new way of thinking, but I think it's a good way to put it to them to where they can understand it. So I see your point.
That's what I was going to say. If it's helping them, and if you're, like the example I said about, I like what you said, Julie, about, you're sending them love and all this energy, and you're thinking of them as healing, and you're seeing them healed. So you're visualizing that they're okay and that they're going to move through this. So that's our idea of prayer. And if the word prayer helps them, because they, like you said, they'll interpret it any way they want. And I've done that too. I'll say prayers to you. Prayers and understanding to you, and sending you love. So
but you got to be true to yourself. Don't say something that defies you.
That's what I was struggling with. That's where the old me would have gone along with all they were saying and said it a similar way, but now I'm thinking of it a bit differently, and I just couldn't find the words to help convert what I was thinking into something that was meaningful and yet they would understand as well.
Well, I don't think I told you anything you didn't already know, but glad to help. That's what we're here for. Sometimes just talking about it, putting it in words opens up.
Thank you for being there.
I think
I
think if we're just coming from love, and we're all coming from love, and sending our loving being out there, it doesn't matter, it'll come to you. Whatever you're going to say is going to come to you, because you're coming from a state of compassion and love anyway when you're wanting to say something. So
yeah, it was just hard finding the words, because my thoughts were that their mindset was totally different than mine, and I had a hard time finding the right transition, I guess, to thinking in a different way.
We all do.
When my dad passed away, I did the eulogy for my dad, and in a Mormon church, and and this was about 3 or 4 years ago. So I was struggling with what to say, because I think completely differently. But I came from the heart, and I basically said the things that he would have, that he was with my mom, because he was with my mom, and that's what they believed, and that I knew he was happy, and that kind of thing. But the funny thing is I remember talking about how my dad liked to gamble, and I said that, and the thing, and my brother went, oh. because we were in a church and my dad and gambling. If anybody knows, gambling is not is taboo at the Mormon church. They didn't condone gambling, but he lived in Vegas, and that was who he was. He liked to go play the slots and gamble, and he was pretty good at it. So, it was just kind of funny. My brother kind of cringed for a second when I said that, but and it.
But that's your perspective, and that was good, I think. Even though they didn't like it, at least you got a way of
part of who he was, and it wasn't anything bad. And he was a kind, loving, good man, and he's very true to his church, but he didn't drink or smoke or anything like that. But he liked to gamble. So, yeah. So
thank you all for your words of wisdom.
I hope we helped.
Dennis had something he was going to say.
Yeah, Dennis.
Oh, my mind got sidetracked with this Mormon talk. I've got a lot of friends that are Mormon, and I call them Jack Mormons.
That's what they call me.
They don't follow their religion, I mean, they have the label. There's a lot of hypocrisy there, but loving people where they're at.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
Love that.
Just love them where they're at and understand where you're at and be good with it, because one day the question will come, and you got to make sure that you understand exactly where you're at and you're comfortable with that, and just love them where they're at. And that sometimes could be hard to do because they're going to throw that stuff at you. It's funny because in most of these religions, they talk about, well, he or she is in a better place. Think about that statement. That's telling you that the soul's immortal and it goes somewhere. It doesn't die. But if you try to explain that to them, it confounds them because it's right there within their own teachings.
Yeah. But they think of it as heaven, or they have the words that make more sense in a religious perspective.
But they don't have the studying and the background to really decipher it. That's where you see, like in the Bible, many times it says those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. They don't understand that either. But they will one day, because there is a major change coming. I mean, the awakening is just absolute. And I like that Julie brought that up, because as soon as I saw all this stuff going down, I'm going, yeah, let's do it, And people thought, well, you want bad things to happen? No, this is necessary. Trust me. Thank you.
Evan, you have your hand up, but you're muted. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So with the background that I grew up in was in the Jehovah's Witness, and every time someone would die, it's always the same thing, and it's supposed to be comforting. But what they would say is that the person is, because they don't believe that the soul lives on, they just believe that a person just dies and then they just cease to exist. And then the memory of them is in Jehovah's memory, which is the name for God in that belief system. And then they're going to be resurrected. So we'll be able to see them again. So you should have faith in that and confidence in that and be happy in that they'll be resurrected. However, you do need to continue to be in good standing with Jehovah, and that means you have to be in good standing in the in the congregation and all of these things. That's not comforting. I've lost 2 children and some other family members, and recently my 13-year-old nephew, and that was not comforting. I didn't want to hear any of that. And when individuals would come to me and say things, I know that the best intentions in their heart would be, and not just Jehovah's Witnesses, other individuals, those things, they kind of feel awkward when someone feels like they have to say something, because I know, like, I'm at the point now that I can I can talk more freely about my sons and their passing. But when I talk about it, I use it as like examples so I can help others. Examples not because I want sympathy, oh look, my son passed away or this or that. It's because there's something that I'm using as a tool to help, kind of like a metaphorical way. And sometimes then individuals feel like they need to say something to me, and then it makes the conversation a little awkward. And so I just say, it's okay, you don't have to say anything because it just feels awkward. um Maybe, I guess, if someone feels like they need to say something, then that comes from their heart, that comes from their feeling, like they feel that they need to say something to the other person for comfort. I guess the best way, I think, would be just, my heart goes out to you, or something like that. But any anything just really feels awkward. And I don't know if other people feel that way, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, that's how I was feeling too, and that's why I asked for a little bit of help and thought on how else to say it. And everybody's been very helpful. I appreciate your input.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. I'm pleased with all the different participation here.
Isn't it great? Well, my time is up. Let's turn the time over to Evan. It was a great conversation, and I could feel the love everybody had. Evan.
All right. I wanted to thank David and Arthur, who were on the call earlier for a little bit. And I also wanted to let the people who listen to the recording know that they're missing out on some good conversation before the recording starts. So I encourage you guys to join us on the meeting. And I wanted to thank Rosa for speaking. And I don't think Mark is getting this meeting yet. We might add him to the email list. See, I think that was all.
He has ways if he wants to get the recording. I think he
probably could get it passed on. I'm going to be reading from The Engine of Wealth. And we're going to be diving into the self-leader system, which is also found in a couple other books. I think they are the First Key Neothink book and the Prime Cure. So you guys could also find the self-leader system in those books. There's a couple diagrams in this reading that I did not try to recreate. I may be getting a scanner to try and do a better job of that in the future. Yeah, I think that's most of what I wanted to say before I begin here. Let me share my screen. Okay. The Engine of Wealth. This is on page 1. Part 1, the key. Part 1 is the key that turns on the money-making engine. These secrets are hidden from the world in the secret society. They have made a lot of members wealthy. They have made a lot of members a lot of money for decades. Underneath all of the propaganda about success, this money-making system is the key and the engine. It always has been the key and the engine, and it always will be the key and the engine. I must say, as one who has personally profited from it, this key and engine money-making system is the most powerful system for making money you will ever discover. Now ride the fast lane to power and wealth. Turn it. Chapter 1, Gathering Control. Harvey Firestone, founder of Firestone Tires, said that success comes from hard thinking. He explained that very few people, even among the intelligent academy, actually ever apply hard thinking. Hard thinking is diametrically opposite of automatic thinking in specialized jobs or externally guided thinking from management above. Hard thinking means moving beyond the non-thinking following mode that subverts average people into stagnation traps. Caught in money-making impotence, caught in specialized jobs, automatically doing set responsibilities handed down from management above. To the contrary, hard thinking means self-thinking from within, integrated thinking or wealth creation thinking. Discover the ultimate working format. Consider two opposing management styles. The first manager reacts to the work before him. He reacts spontaneously to the work before him, moves disjointedly through his day, and loses his ability to think. The second manager controls the work before him. He structures the work before him, moves smoothly through his day, and gains the ability to think. The first management style above is closer to our primitive roots, react to the elements. The second management style is part of man's evolution into human consciousness, control the elements. The automatic primitive approach requires less effort. The self-guided conscious approach requires hard thinking. And profits rise geometrically with hard integrated thinking. To escalate hard thinking, thus escalate wealth, first requires the ultimate working format that induces thinking, format with minimum physical disjointedness. The ultimate money-making format demands smooth physical movements. For a smooth physical flow throughout the day allows one to think. Formatting work into smooth physical movements causes dramatic rises in wealth and power. Consider that a few hundred years ago, man single-handedly handled his survival needs. He built his own home, farmed his own food, sewed his own clothes, made his own tools. Then, as the 18th century economist Adam Smith identified, the division of labor broke labor into smaller and smaller units, which catapulted mankind into the Industrial Revolution. The division of labor eliminated the physically disjointed format of survival as society integrated into smooth physical movements. The farmer, the blacksmith, the carpenter, the loomer. The career man focused on his physical movement all day, be it farming or making tools or building furniture or sewing clothes. He no longer moves with physical disjointedness throughout his day as those tending to all their survival needs. He now put hard thinking into his one movement, his profession, to raise his value to society, thus his personal wealth. By removing physical disjointedness among the people, society became tightly integrated and highly efficient. The resulting rise of the Industrial Revolution brought expanding wealth and power to average men and women. Indeed, the street sweeper today lives with better shelter, food, clothes, choices of entertainment than the aristocrats of a few hundred years ago. At the turn of the 20th century, Men hand-assembled cars, single-handedly handled all car production needs. They hand-assembled the seats, the steering wheel, the doors, the engine, and the carriage. Then in the 1920s, Henry Ford discovered the division of labor in car production and broke car production into smaller and smaller units, into the assembly line that catapulted car production into mass production. The division of labor eliminated the physically disjointed format of building cars as car production integrated into smooth physical movement. The rivet driver, the welder, the stitcher. The assembly line man focused on his physical movements all day, be it driving in rivets or welding parts or stitching material. He no longer moved with physical disjointedness throughout his day, like those in hand assembling shops, still tending to all the car production needs. Moreover, teams of hard-thinking, integrated thinkers catapulted car production to new realms as they focused on every movement, how to increase its efficiency, how to make gravity work for production, how to raise value per dollar to society, and thus launch Ford's personal and business wealth. By removing physical disjointedness within the factory, car production became tightly integrated to the split second and dramatically efficient. Car prices went down and America's standard of living went up as average men and women suddenly could afford cars. With the assembly line, America rose to economic prominence. Why? Production evolved beyond physical disjointedness, beyond the hand crew operations, putting together complex arrays of parts into production lines, rolling out cars, and soon other products through smooth physical assembly line movement. Now I bring the powerful division of labor to you. I bring smooth and physical movements beneath the nation, beneath the factories, to the individual, to you. I do this by breaking your job down to its physical movements. Your work becomes tightly integrated and highly efficient. But most important, by breaking your job into smooth physical movements, you then are able to evolve into a new realm of hard thinking. You are able to evolve into integrated thinking, the next dimension of success. Breaking your job into smooth physical movements. Two forces of work exist. One, physically based work, such as a bricklayer or construction worker, and two, mentally based work, such as a desk man. I work a mentally based career as a writer and CEO of the society. To illustrate this division of labor most effectively, my own notes and schedules are used as examples. However, this breakthrough also applies to physically based careers, as you will see after going through my mentally based examples. Every person with a physically based career must read the next several pages closely to understand this level of control that launches integrated thinking and wealth. After that understanding, this chapter then addresses the physically based careers. So all readers, carpenters, and painters, managers, and presidents, read closely the next several pages. While reading this chapter, you may suspect that breaking down work to its physical movements does not apply to your job. Chances are that you are right, for traditional jobs today are specialized, not integrated. Explain later. Therefore, a specialized, stagnant nature of your job will not permit the integrated forward march nature of the physical movement working format. For the majority of readers, this will be the case. So read carefully the next several pages. You will learn the integrated approach needed to rise from stagnation. And over the next few pages, you will acquire the tools needed to break free from your specialized job and its world of stagnation. You will acquire the tools needed to start your own profitable business with this key to the money-making engine. These techniques can also be used right in your current place of work lift you straight to the positions of power and wealth. Either way, you will discover how to exchange your current limited world of specialized thinking for the unlimited world of wealth creation, integrated thinking. Breaking your job into physical movements. Now let us begin. If we were to list the tasks done in a day by the average manager, the list would look something like this. Organized work for subordinates, called Jim Peabody of X and Y Company, drafted letter to supplier, had meeting with secretary, reviewed inventory report. Now, if we were to also list the tasks that he wanted to do or planned to do, but did not have time to do, it would look similar to this. Wanted to write to second supplier, wanted to call about new quotes, wanted to meet with programmer, wanted to update marketing data, wanted to organize the most current files, wanted to talk to longtime employee about friction building. Now, if we were to list the tasks that he scheduled for the following day, his list would look something like this. We'll definitely write letter to second supplier. We'll make sure to get new quotes. We'll meet with programmer. We'll not leave till update marketing data. We'll finally organize files. We'll make sure I talk to that longtime employee. Must meet with boss for 3-hour weekly meeting in afternoon. Must prepare for meeting all morning. The example above reflects a common problem of the average manager. Many are out of control with physically disjointed schedules. Iron grip control. I enable you to double and triple and quadruple your capacity by integrating work into smooth physical movements. Diagram 1 provides an example of just 3 days of tasks done by me. Refer to pages 7 through 9 for diagram 1. How did I easily handle that seemingly overwhelming list in just 3 days? Consider the task of delivering the overwhelming number of pieces of U.S. mail each day. If that mail were dumped into large piles for the mailman to fill their bags and start delivering, the first letter to an address perhaps on the west side, the next letter perhaps to the south side, the next letter back to the west side, the physically disjointed mail delivery system would get hopelessly behind. Similarly, physically disjointed traditional work schedule gets hopelessly behind. As the mail must be physically integrated, so must one's job. For example, the overwhelming U.S. mail breaks down into easy to handle physical carrier route deliveries. Similarly, my overwhelming job that previously never got finished breaks down into a few easy to handle physical movements that now always gets done. To break down my job into the physical carrier route-like integrated movements, I studied my 3 days of tasks. From that, I identified my physical movements. I identified 1, phone calls, 2, letter writing, 3, copywriting, 4, accounting, 5, meetings, and 6, operations. Each movement is a raw physical act. A phone call, for example, requires picking up the phone and dialing no matter what the call is about. Before demonstrating how those basic physical movements provide the format to journey toward money and power, let's review how I determine my physical movements. Turn again to diagram 1. As you examine the 3 days of tasks, notice that I make a number of phone calls. To make a phone call, one must make a physical movement. The movement remains the same no matter who one calls or what one calls about. Go through the list and put a number 1 next to all phone calls. Next, you can see that I write a number of letters. To write a letter requires a physical movement, regardless who one writes or what one writes about. Put number 2 next to letter writing tasks. I develop ads and product copy. Copywriting 2 is an independent movement. That is number 3. Mark all copywriting tasks number 3. I spend substantial time doing finances, bookkeeping, accounting, creative accounting, and invoice review. Mark all financial matters number 4. Although many approaches and techniques exist for meetings, holding meetings still is a specific physical act. Mark all meetings with the number 5. The 5 movements identified above may or may not apply to other jobs. But the next movement applies to nearly all mentally based jobs and many physically based jobs. Just later. To determine the final movement, look over the tasks. All but a few are marked off. The remaining unmarked tasks do not seem to link together into a related movement. Those disjointed leftover tasks are the culprits of nitpick work that shoot most managers' days to shreds. Now we can finally corner them. You too will have disjointed tasks left over. Those seemingly disjointed tasks actually all fall under one physical movement, the physical movement of operating management. Now you can capture those problem makers into one movement to blast through in one shot. You will move forward all day long and other important movements. Momentum not destroyed by nitpick work. Number those now harmless tasks with the number 6. Now notice the integration among the same unwieldy 3 days of tasks when broken down into their physical movements on the next page. Look again at the unwieldy list of tasks in diagram 1 compared to the streamlined list of tasks in diagram 2. Diagram 2 shows my career broken down into smooth physical movements. Notice the assembly line efficiency. For me, phase 1 is done. When you do phase 1, your physical movements will vary from mine. As your career begins to integrate, everything begins to move toward simplicity and efficiency. Refer to pages 11 through 12 for diagram 2. All right. See in your message, Julia, I thought about that. I haven't done that yet. I may do that also. Using a scanner or using my phone or my camera. So yeah, has everyone gone through the self-leader system? Have you figured out physical movements for your current job? Have you applied it to your Friday night essence? Go ahead, Jerry. I see you. You got your line unmuted. Or anyone? Got any thoughts on that?
Well, I think that even if we are not employed outside the home, we still have duties around that we activities that we do.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
and that self-discipline, that scheduling your mini days still applies, and especially if you have a home-based business. But it's important, I think, this is the world according to Julie. I think it's important to somehow every day in our mini day schedule out time to develop our Friday night essence. If we're still not, I mean, even if we're not living it, let's schedule time to at least think about it, plan for it, add that little bit into our mini day.
I think it's good to also, even if you've done gone through this process before, to go through it again many times.
It is.
Eva Maya, you got your hand raised. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. So my Friday night essence is to prove the existence of God, man through indigenous teachings, because the information is already there and it's been there for millennia. And everything that I do, whether it looks like it or not, is leading to that. And so even I clean Airbnbs, but that I started doing because I want to know the very, very basics, because I want to create a retreat. And so I want to know the ins and outs from the very bottom of how things are run, how do you do them, what if there's going to be cleaners, you know, what they go through, if there's going to be, you know, so I do a lot of managing because the owners don't even live in the city. One lives in Arizona, one lives in Nevada, and there's a few others, but they do live here. And so, but that's going towards the retreat. I want to do a 40 days of silence, and because I did a 40 days of silence and it helped me to expand my conscious understanding of different things. And so everything I do, it kind of looks like it's not coinciding with that. And I do Aztec dancing, and I'm learning the so I've been studying my whole life a lot of the different information that's out there in the ancient civilizations, and how things have been done, how they've progressed, how things have been mutated because of the excuse me, because of the you know, the conquest and different things, and just how that applies through and then just doing different things for my growth. I am I'm also involved with a couple of other different women that do different things. One is she just opened a nonprofit, and I'm also putting together a nonprofit. And with that is to help other women and children and people in need so that they can progress. So that's also part of the step. If I can figure out how I'm growing into a God man and document the steps, then it's more likely that I can help others learn how to do it as well. And so everything I'm doing, all the different movements, they do come together. And so I do, if I have to do emails, or I have to do messaging, or I have to do meetings, or I have to do all of these different things, I bunch them into one. So if I have to do, say, so I have groups on WhatsApp, or, you know, group texts or different things, or people I need to message, or emails I need to send. I do that all at one time. I do, you know, different meetings, or I do the dancing, the singing, the different things. Those have those set times. I set my schedule for when I'm cleaning the Airbnbs. You know, everything has, I have a schedule. I can't do anything unless excuse me, unless I look to my agenda. I can't schedule anything. Everyone wants to do something. Hey, can we do this? Or can we meet for this or that? It has to be, I have to look to my schedule. So I have a meeting I have to put together soon. And they're looking, they say, well, we're going on your schedule because you're the one with the most things that you're doing. So they're looking to me to set the time for the meeting. So, and that I'm bringing together the Waldorf school. So I brought together 2 different communities so that we can move forward and help in the community. So the many day schedule, it's really important.
It is.
Definitely. I've got my calendar open all day. I'm always looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I have a question or a comment. One of the things that didn't seem to get mentioned is the delegation of work, or working with people and accepting other people's ideas. And to me, that's a real important step in being able to grow a business and to be able to move forward. There's times when you can't do it all yourself and you need the help of others. And there's times when other people have suggestions and ways of doing things that make more sense than you've thought of so far. So to me, there's that working together, or the teamwork part of a business that it hasn't been mentioned yet.
Yeah, Mark goes into that later in the readings. But he uses a concept called replicating rather than delegation. specifically for our
Well,
area of purpose. So, but yeah, we'll get to that at some point.
yeah, along with the delegation, you need to also have some mentoring and bringing people and helping them grow and become more efficient in their way of doing things as well.
Definitely.
Just a thought.
Thank you, Jerry. Anyone else have any thoughts? I'd love to hear what some of your physical movements are.
Well, I've always got something to say, whether it's garbage or not. But one of the things, and this is a terrible thing to admit, but with the Neothink literature, I get so wrapped up in it and I can spend hours and hours and hours. And so at first, I mean, I didn't know about the mini days. Then I developed mini days. And then I decided, well, okay, I need to limit my time because I'm not getting anything done. I just want to read and grow. And I think it was Connie, or maybe it was Rosa. I'm sorry. Somebody said, feed me. We just want to learn. I want to know. I want to know. And that's how I am. I'm so hungry. And so I read and I read and I read. And I decided that I have other things to do. I tried adjusting my mini schedule so I allowing more and more time for reading Neothink. And then pretty soon there was my other responsibilities, times were shrinking because of it. And so anyhow, then I tried, okay, I'll only read when I go to bed. Well, Sue and I had that discussion. You get wrapped up in it, you don't sleep, and then you can't, wake up. Your alarm clock doesn't get you up. So I think that, yes, having a mini day is important. And yes, I think it needs to be revisited and adjusted from time to time. But one of the biggest thoughts behind the mini days and the business system is control. It's personal control. It's having that, I can't get the right word, self-control. You have to have that also.
Well, there's other ways of thinking too, and I think Dave even said it. It's if you're being drawn to that, and that's what you're being drawn to, maybe that's what you need right now. And yeah, having some of that self-control in there too, but don't beat yourself up for wanting to read and absorb, because maybe that's what you need, because you're probably just following the energy. And if you're an energetic creator, and Mark doesn't talk about following energy, but there's a fine line between mini days and following the energy. So energetic creators want to just, this makes me feel good, I'm going to go out, it feels good. But when you're feeling good, you're still living in the zone. So if you're reading and it's making you feel good, don't beat yourself up if you're not doing your mini day right now, because that'll all come. Have a little bit of a mini day, a little bit of a structure, but create it to where you're doing what's creating right now. That's what you're requiring. Maybe. Maybe ask a question.
Dennis reminded me, DTC.
Yeah.
Discipline, right. Thought, control. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You can have some of that, but you have the discipline, thought, control, but you can also have a balance of, if you're being drawn to read, then I do that all the time. I'll have my mini day set up, and then sometimes some mini days just go out the window because a thought's coming in, things are happening, and I need to write it down. I need to create. Creation's coming in, and everything else has to go out of the way because it's happening right now. And I'm not going to say, oh, I'm doing a mini day, and then I lose all that. So you never know. Sometimes you need to just, it is amazing. I use many days for my phone calls, and like Eva Mai was saying, I use many days for my computer time, and all the emails need to be sent at the same time, and it's so efficient for that, because, and especially phone calls too. If I have to call the dentist, or I have to call a doctor, or I have to call a friend, or I have to call, it doesn't matter who you're calling, all your phone calls are at one time or have to call for business, right? And that's why Mark Hamilton was able to do all his projects, different projects at the same time. People say you can't do more than one business or more than one thing. I have a direct sales business I'm doing. I have people in NeoThink. I have other things that's going on. So all these other things can be added right into phone calls, and I can get phone calls. You know, one person said on there, it doesn't matter if you're calling your mother or if you're doing a business call, it's all in phone calls. And that seems to work really well. So, and then Julie, just your reading time, I guess, is just bigger. I have reading time and I have study time. I have study, I have reading time, and I have learning time, reading and learning time. I have website, the website, or not website, it's like internet. I kind of combine them. Internet, you know, is like internet and research. You know, I'm on the internet and researching, so I have time for that. And then I have a time set up for emailing and, you know, that kind of stuff. So I had to kind of figure out, you know, phone calls first. And then sometimes I used to do it the other way around. So I started doing phone calls first because a lot of times an email would come after a phone call. So I would put emails after phone calls. That way I can get all my phone calls done and then I get my emails done. Everybody sets it up the way that works for them. I love this because it's so flexible.
I like the idea that you said emails after phone calls. One of the things I struggle with is having too many emails and never really can get through them all. And then there's organizing emails and, you know, keeping them to where you can find them once you've read them.
Yeah. And then there's even a time when you need to read all your email. If you get a lot of emails you have to go through, that could be in, you know, in the reading time. I mean, it's you can get very technical with it. It can get kind of confusing when you try to figure out what's the physical movement for this. And that's what's cool is about the operations too. You know, things that don't fit in go into that operations section where you can do the things that are left over that Evan was talking about.
That's a good point. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
One thought I had is with discipline, thought and control, the discipline part of it is asking yourself, what mini day am I supposed to be doing right now? And then doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Dennis, go ahead.
Let me put my hand down so I don't forget. There we go. Yeah, when I first started reading this literature, I got nothing else done. And I mean, that was for about a year. That's all I did was get up and read, go to bed, get up and read. Well, I ate and did all that stuff too, but I didn't have too much of a concept of movements or anything else. I just, you know, because I wasn't working at the time. And I read this in, I believe it was NeoThink One Key. And it took me a little while to really grasp because I kept looking, well, this is Mark running a corporation or a big company, you know, so how is this going to apply to me today? And it took me a while to really break it down and understand physical movements. Oh, then it hit me. Well, I look at my whole day now as when I'm going to do it, you know, well, one of the things that I did in regards to what Julie and Sue were talking about in the reading, it took me a while, but I had to find the time when I was absorbing my best. Because I could read and read and read and read. I love to read. I'm deaf, so that's my favorite thing to do is read because the words are there and I don't have to worry about hearing them. But I had to figure out when my, whether you want to call it energy level or whatever, was at a place where I was going to absorb best. And then I had to figure out how to shut off when that time was up, because I didn't have the discipline when I started out to do that. And I ran into the same thing with this Neil Think Online. Starting into it, I ran into the same thing. I'm on this thing till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sleeping, and I'm checking this out and checking that out and trying to learn stuff. And I realized that, with that change, I had to go back to the basics. And that's what Evan was saying. You have to go back and go through it again and then list it out. And so there's optimum times for me to handle things. But the physical movements make sense. If you're going to do phone calls, stick to the phone calls, get them done in your mini day. You set this up to physical movements, get them all done, and don't start adding more phone calls when you've already got the list. You can do that in your next mini day,
Mhm.
I have that situation here where I'll be in on a meeting and my phone starts going off. I just throw it in my desk and let them
Yep.
leave a message. If they really want to contact Dennis, leave a message. And if they don't, well, bye-bye. No big deal. So for me, it was just sticking to that idea in my head. Physical movements. Reading is a physical movement. Emails are a physical movement. It can break down into all of that. And it took me a while to get that. It took me a while to get it. But once I started getting it, it was easier to do. But there's still times I get tripped up. And that's it. I'm honest. I really got screwed up with this online thing. It really jumped me around. And then I had to say, whoa, Lytle, stop it. And that's where the discipline, thought, and control came in. And then I started playing games with the DTC. Well, what if the control comes before the discipline? Or does the thought come before the control? And then I realized, you're just trying to twist this thing up, Lytle. Slow down, take it in order, and it'll work. And it did. So thank you.
Well, I've thought about putting thought before discipline also. I've thought about the order of it too. Any other final thoughts before we move on to our next mini day? Guess not.
All right.
Well-
Thank you, everybody. I've enjoyed our time today.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank
See you
you.
next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Next week. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Colette.
Love you
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Love you.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a great day. Well, have a great weekend.
Yes.
And I hope to hear you on Sunday.
Bye now.
All right. Bye, guys.